Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, it's the Darkest Timeline. So it's me talking for a really long time because apparently this turned into a bit of a bumper episode. I just had a lot to talk about. Isn't that the point? Isn't that why we're here? Talking about service and MOTs. Yeah. Why it's important to be the bigger person. I don't mean like height-wise, I mean like be the bigger man. Or be the bigger lady, if you're a lady. Jobs. Mike Tyson fight. And podcasts. Let's talk about podcasts, yeah? That's why we're here. There's TV. A very small amount about movies, but not much. And then there's computer games to talk about. So, there. Before we start, please do consider like, share, subscribe and comment. Leave a review where you can leave a review. And obviously the big one there, share the podcast around. Yeah, you never know. You might give it to someone and they might go, hey, I love that podcast. Right, enough from me. Here's some more me. This is CookieCast, the Darkest Timeline. What up, party people? Thought I'd come in hot today. Hot to trot. Down to clown. Yeah. Anyone remember that video where that woman's like trying to do a backflip? And she's like, "Hey, you got to surprise the muscles so they don't know what's coming. You gotta let it sneak up on you." And then she keeps going on about not doing the backflip, and then she's like, "Surprise, bitch!" and throws herself backwards, presumably landing on her back. Yeah, I was going to start the podcast with "Surprise, bitch," whilst surprising myself by just pressing record. I may be rambling. I may be a rambling man. I'm going to go back to last week's notes. Did I talk about how... so it's on last week's notes about the car situation. So I'm going to presume some stuff and take it from there. I'm going to presume I told you that I tried to get some tyres put on the car so that I could get it serviced and MOT'd. No problems, no dramas, my friend. No problems, no dramas. Obviously, it was a lot of problems and a lot of drama. So, trying to piece it together because Monday night is when I recorded and Monday morning was when I went into the garage. So they will have said to me, just bring it in, we'll MOT it and see how we get on. Obviously I was expecting a fail on the MOT because, spoilers, the car needed new tyres. That's what they told me a year before. But I was doing like a quick sort of tally in my head and I was like, I don't think I will have put even 1,000 miles on that car in a year. And as I said to the guy at the garage, the car basically lives on the drive unless I've got a car full of children. So I think, and I don't know this for sure, but I think things like that go a little ways when dealing with things like wear and tear. So if you're there to assess the wear and tear of a vehicle and somebody said, yeah, it's basically on the drive. The irony is that I'm sure there was a point in time where it just lived at the garage. So I spent more time at the garage than on the drive at one point. So I get a phone call. I don't know, like 20 to 4 Tuesday, because I dropped it off Tuesday morning. 20 to 4 rolls around. Phone rings. It's the garage. I'm like, uh-oh. I was like, hello? Like, hi, your car's ready to collect. I was like, what? Like, your car's ready to collect. Like, because it's so bad you want it out of your building as quickly as possible? Or they're like, it's past its MOT and it's had its service, so it's ready to collect. Like, okay, how many English pounds do I owe you? And they were basically said it was the service, the MOT, and they replaced the offending bolts on the wheels. Like, okay, I'll come and collect it. I went to collect it, and they were like, a couple of things to watch out for, a couple of advisories. They'd done like a couple of like jobs. They were like, we've done this and we've done that, and this would have been a problem, so we've sorted it so that it's past its MOT. I'm like, okay, thank you. They're like, yeah, brake discs. They'll probably be the next thing that needs replacing. I was like, cool. Because they're cheap, as we know. And they were like, and wear on your tyres. I was like, well, that wouldn't have been a problem if I'd have gone and got the tyres sorted. They're like, well, at this point in time, it is road legal, so give me money and take your keys. I was like, okay. And that was that. And the only thing I could think about that was, I paid for tyres when I didn't need to. More evidence in the column of whenever I try to be proactive, it always backfires on me. That was nearly a week ago at this point in time. It has taken me until today to get those tyres put on the car for a multitude of reasons. One of those reasons, or some of those reasons, will be coming up shortly. So, I think by now it's probably fairly clear, fairly obvious, a well-known thing in the community. I enjoy a podcast. I enjoy recording a podcast. I enjoy listening to a podcast. My true enjoyment of podcasts birthed this podcast. I just love them. I love them so much. I like to lean in the direction of comedy. So either comedians that do podcasts or actual comedy podcasts. And that is kind of that. I listen to many, multiple, various different points of the day. I listen to podcasts when I'm working out. I listen to podcasts when I'm walking the dog. I listen to podcasts if I'm just in the house on my own. It's like a little friend. So, because I listen to that many, and because, what was I saying, life imitates art, I've had a couple of things recently, and I think both of them are in this. Yeah, both of them are in this episode. I've had a couple of things recently where I've had a conversation, and then literally the next time I put a podcast on, that subject matter has come up. So the first one was over a series of things that have happened recently. me and Leanne always end up like at the opposite sides of a point. So I'll be fire and brimstone and she'll be the voice of reason. And that's generally why things seem to work the way they do. A phrase she will often use, on me, with me, whatever, is, yes, but you need to be the bigger person. You need to be the bigger man, is another one. And my argument at those times is, why? The other person isn't being the bigger man. Sometimes the comeback to that is, he's two and doesn't know any better. And my comeback will be, but he started it. Apparently, being a 44-year-old man, that's not acceptable. Who knew? But he did start it. That's all I'm saying. So, one day last week, we ended up in one of these situations. She fired off you have to be the bigger man, and I fired back with, do you know something? I was thinking about this while I was walking the dog. Why do I have to be the bigger man? Because the other person is never the bigger man. Why am I the one that has to be the bigger person? If we were all out there in the world being the bigger man, we'd all collectively be better off. We'd all be further ahead in life, further ahead as a society. There'd be less problems, less issues, less arguments, etc., etc., etc. But that's not the way it is. The way it is somebody says to me, yeah, but you need to be the bigger man. And I'm like, oh, okay then. And the problem is that Leanne agreed. She was like, yeah, that's absolutely correct, But it's actually not. That's not the point. The point is, if you're the bigger person, then you are the bigger person. You're being the better person. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't feel like it works. Because another way to look at it is, you should allow the other person to walk all over you, and there then is no repercussions. And I think that was the point in time where Leanne tapped out. I'm listening to Bill Burr do his podcast the next morning. So this was conversation the night. The next morning comes around, I'm doing some sort of exercise-based activity. And I'm listening to Bill Burr talking. And almost the exact same conversation came up. He was saying, you've got to be the bigger person. But the question is, why? Why do you have to be the bigger person? And I'm like, when you're like shaking your head side to side, like, is this actually happening? And I was like, this will be a really interesting sort of take on things, because I'm about to see what somebody else's opinion is, especially when I've had this conversation in the last 12 hours and I don't necessarily agree. And what he came back with was, you have to be the bigger person because you are then the better person. And the other person is a word I'd probably not use on this podcast freely, openly. It's, some would say, the worst word. So I'm gonna edit it, self-edit. I'm going to go with the other person is an arsehole. And I was like, yes, that is true. That is the case. But do we not live in a world where people are quite happy to be that way. Almost, nowadays, it's almost like a badge of honour. It's not be the bigger person, it's be the biggest asshole. Something that's going to sort of come back around later in the podcast is that sort of subject. Just for funsies. So yeah, don't forget, people, be the bigger person so the other person can get away with being a complete and utter fucking prick. So, what's that I hear you say? Why did it take you a week, an actual week, to sort out the tyres? Well, there's been a snowball effect that's been going on for nearly a month now. In fact, I'm going to say it, it's been at least a month now, if not more. I 100% had it in my head that once I got over the hump of my eldest's birthday and all of the stuff that went involved in trying to arrange, organise, deal with the numerous text messages to parents, just trying to get stuff locked in, whilst simultaneously not arranging any other stuff for that week. Leanne kept saying to me, he was like, yeah, okay, but what are you going to do on that day? And I'm like, I physically cannot tell you what we're going to do on that day because I can't get past that point. It's not possible. It's not a thing. But I had it in my head, 100%, just have to get past that point, past that day. It was actually 2 days, but past those days, ride the last of the sort of wave, ride it into the shore and be done. Job done. There was a problem. A small, tiny, minute problem. A problem that I did not calculate or compute. And that problem was, it's November. Why is that important, I hear you ask? Because the thing that people forget is that this is one of the busiest times of the year. For a multitude of different reasons. There's always something at this time of year. If you've got kids, you'll know what I'm sort of referring to. It's shows and performances and plays and all of that. There's a bake sale every 18 seconds. Everything that happens at this time of year is purely designed around one purpose, and that is all about taking money out of your pocket. It's non-stop. So you've got all of that going on. Then you've got things like, I need to put tyres on the car. But I can't do it today, I can't do it tomorrow, I can't get there on that day, I can't get out there and back on that day. And it just goes like that. To the point where you make the phone call and they go, oh yeah, we can see you tomorrow at 3. And one side of your brain goes, it's physically impossible to get there for that time. And the other side of your brain that apparently controls the mouth goes, that's fine, I'll see you then. Anyway, nothing let up. Nothing let up. I would even go as far as to say that things just got busier. Now, I was struggling to hold it together, and I'm not like, I can't do things. And what I'm saying was, and this is not me tooting my own horn, I think I did okay. I managed to wrangle 8 children, plus parents, plus the fact that it felt like they spanned the globe for like distances and things away. I was trying to request for people to travel for like an hour just to drop a child somewhere or stuff like this. And then you've got parents who are just down the road, and it was just, It was that. It was messages. It was like making sure that we had all the things we needed, like, the drinks and the sweets and the popcorn and the crisps. And then, you've got a whole other set of things that you need, like, pizza and garlic bread. And it's all of that. We got through it. We survived. I bought 2 different sets of cinema tickets. I ended up making sure that there was movies to watch if the internet went down and all of that. And we came out the other side unscathed. Nobody died. Nobody hurt. Nobody broke a bone. I think it was okay. I think it went okay. Nobody tells me, so I don't know. And we came out the other side of it. And there were ups and downs, but we came out the other side. And we came out the other side to me going, well, that's me done now. I'm done. All I have to do now is worry about that C word at the end of the year. And that's a few weeks away. I am off the clock. And the clock was like, yeah, but what about all this other stuff? So I found this amazing coping mechanism, this amazing method. It's really working for me. What it is if you, rather than carrying all these little jobs and things you need to do and all these bits and bobs going on and all of those things, if you carry all those around in your head, that's not possible to do. So instead, don't carry any of them around in your head. And that way, you don't have to worry about them. No? Honestly, I sometimes wonder how I managed to, like, it feels a bit like I'm surprised I remember to get out of bed. I feel like I've overcorrected. So, the example is the tyres. The tyres are me going, I don't have the capacity, ability, or anything else to deal with this. It's a job that needs doing. I know it needs doing, and I'll do it. When? I don't know. Because all I know is that I can't do it today and I can't do it tomorrow. But I could make the phone call. But if my answer to them is, well, I can't do it today or tomorrow, what's the point? So then, like, we'll get to the end of the day and Leon be like, what's happening with the tyres? It's like, oh, yeah, I'm going to sort it. Next day rolls around. Did you do anything about sorting the tyres out? I realised I couldn't, so I'm going to do it tomorrow. That went on for a week. And after a week, I was like, I mean, it needs doing. I kind of had it in my head I'd just take it yesterday, Sunday. I know that sounds weird, but it was booked in for a Sunday previously. I was like, yeah, there's probably the kind of place where they're quiet. So I phoned at one point. I was like, I can nip out now, get it done and get back whilst all the kids are busy. And I spoke to the guy and he was like, yeah, tomorrow, 3:00. And I went, okay. So, it's this amazing coping mechanism where I'm just like, don't hold anything in your head. Don't worry about anything. Don't carry anything with you. Don't panic. Oh, I've got that to do. I've got this to do. I've got the other to do. Instead, don't hold any of it in your head. And then it's like a little surprise when you've completely forgotten about something and not done anything to actually... Yeah. Yeah, I know. I just... I took the kids to the toy shop yesterday. This is an example. So this was a job that needed to be done because one of my children has written the most comprehensive Christmas list I've ever seen. It's an actual work of art coming from the child it's come from. It is perfection. I love absolutely everything about it. So I went. She needs to go to the toy shop to make sure either anything on her list is triple checked, or, oh, well, I'd kind of like that, and I didn't realise that was a thing, so maybe I could get that. I have a child who has written no Christmas list. I know, we're 5 weeks away or whatever, but 5 weeks is not a long time, and some of us have got, plans and budgeting to think of. I have a child who is done. He was done 5 months ago. And I have another child who is very much in limbo. She's at that age where it's like, you're not going to buy her a toy, but you're probably not going to buy her... I don't know what teenagers want these days. But yeah, limbo. Although she has given me a series of different suggestions, and I'm like, again, I am loving this. So I was like, right, one child needs to go to the toy shop to see toys to actually get an idea of something that they want for Christmas, and one child needs to go to tick things off on that's on my list. I just wanted to make sure that it was this or that or the other. So we get to the toy shop. We go in, and I was like, right, here's the system. If you see something that you want to put to your list, tell me. I'll take a picture, and if it's a real important thing that we need to get the details right for, I'll write it down in my little black book. Away we go. I think we were there like 45 minutes. There was this whole thing about getting it all done so that I could get back for nap time. The child who has written a list. Daddy, can you take a picture of this? Absolutely no problem. Of these items here, which are you looking at the most? That one and that one for definite. Okay, that's good. And this one, maybe. Okay, and maybe this one. Perfect. Write it all down, take a load of pictures. Bosh. Daddy, can you take a picture of this? Yes, absolutely. Oh, Daddy, can you take a picture of this? Sure. Child who has no Christmas list. Daddy, can you take a picture of this? This is what I want for Christmas. No. Because I am not buying you a £200 horse. It's one of those horse things that you sit on and you do the horse motion. You go up and down. And it sort of kind of drives. It's got wheels. And £200. We go around the entire shop. And the child that has no Christmas list at this point in time goes, I want the horse. You can't have the horse. We have nowhere to put a horse. Because it's nearly the size of a horse. Like, what else have you got for your list? Nothing. Awesome, that's fantastic. And then the child who has all of his Christmas presents bought, put away, ready to rock and roll, he wanted everything. Oh, look at this dinosaur. Yeah, it's a good dinosaur, that. You don't need it. Oh, I want this dancing group. Okay, it's no. Daddy, look at this turtle's costume. Yeah, you could dress up like a turtle if you had that, which you won't. So, I'm like, okay, break it down. The one that's done, if there's a point in time where the thing might need like another item, there's something there to work with. He's very taken with some dinosaurs and things like that. He's really into Godzilla, which I'm like, that's super cool because so am I. So that's that one done. You've got the child with no Christmas list that wants a horse, and then the child who has a Christmas list. And I said, so darling, now you've been to the toy shop, you've had a good look around, we've taken some pictures and written some stuff down. Is there anything you want to add to your Christmas list? No. No. Okay, but what about all the pictures we took and all the things we wrote down? You don't need to add anything to your Christmas list? No. All right, okay then. Now, in defense of that, what I will say is this. When I got back and reread the Christmas list, I went, oh, that's why. Because all the stuff she'd got me to take pictures of were on her Christmas list. And all the things that she sort of like fine-tuned, like, oh, this one's really cool. This one's really cool. And if there was another one, this one. Those were individual items for something that she had written on her list. So I was like, oh, no, what she means is, well, no, I've told you I want these things. I was just telling you which ones I wanted. So, there we go. Walk away from that job going, did I really achieve anything or did I just waste my morning? That is my defense for why I physically can't bring myself to hold all the jobs in my head. Or something like that. I think because we are about to move into the busiest time of year, I think my brain just needs a bit of a reboot, like a shutdown almost. I just don't think I can do it. Certainly not at the moment. Got to gear myself up. Oh God, it's making me that stressed. It's making me actually fall asleep. I think that's a stress reaction. Who watched the Mike Tyson Jake Paul fight? I did. In a lot of ways. Yeah. Kind of wish I hadn't. So I read on the internet, it's like, oh, it starts at 1. Got to get through all the undercard to get to the Mike Tyson Jake Paul fight. Excuse me. Don't know what's happening right now. So they said, be about 4 o'clock. I had a conversation with Leanne and I was like, I can't stay up till 4. She was like, no. Go to bed, set an alarm for 3:45, get up, grab a tablet, put the fight on, watch it in bed. I was like, do you know something? That's actually a genius idea. And that's what I did. And I wish I hadn't. Because of what I wish I'd done is had another hour's sleep and got up at 4:45 because the fight didn't start until 5. That was one reason I wish I hadn't bothered. The other reason I wish I hadn't bothered, and by the point in time you get this, I think it's probably sort of a done deal in the fact that it was 100%. Basically, it was just staged. It was just like people were like, oh, it was rigged. Oh, it was like, yeah, but once all the stuff's come out about the stipulations for the fight, and all the stuff's come out about like the money that Mike Tyson was due to earn if it went the distance, and this, that, and the other, everyone's like, oh, well, then it was fake. It's like, yeah. And they've like broken down like footage and they've sort of pulled it apart and put it back together and all this and the other. And what they've come up with is this was absolutely 100% not real. So, I was talking to a guy I sit next to at work today about it. And I said to him, I was like, did you see all the stuff about it was fake? And he was like, yeah. I was like, I don't really get it. Like, what's the point? You're a boxer. And somebody's like, oh, we want you to do this fight. Like, okay. Are you due to earn this much money? Like, okay. Like, but if you do this and this and this and this and this, you can earn 10 times as much money. Okay. That sounds great. But if you're not short of a bob or two, then would the smart move not be to just do the fight? Like, people were showing comparison footage of like Mike Tyson training versus Mike Tyson in the ring. And it was two different people. But all you've seen for 6 months running up to that fight was all these training videos of Mike Tyson just looking absolute, like, just a monster possessed. And then they show you the footage of him in the ring. And it's like, I was saying to somebody today, I was like, I'm pretty sure he's probably smoked 2/3 of his entire stash before stepping into that ring. Because he looked like he was asleep. He smoked whatever Shaq didn't. Because there was a point in time where Shaq was interviewed. And Shaq looked like he was on a different planet. I'll tell you this much, it was nice to actually watch some of the women's boxing, because women's boxing is mental anyway. Women's MMA, like UFC stuff, is bonkers batshit. Women are fucking savages when it comes to stuff like that. They are brutal. It's a different caliber. It should be considered to be a different sport to men's. It's just, they're worlds apart. You're in the same octagon or the same ring. You've got the same gloves. You've got all that. Outside of those few things, it's a different sport. Women go fucking hard. And apparently the men just pussyfoot around. Here's the thing though, and I'm not too bitter about being robbed of the best part of 2 hours of my life, and more importantly, my sleep. Here's the thing. What was the point? What was the point to any of it? Because all I keep seeing is like, oh, Jake Paul had to pay Mike Tyson this, and Jake Paul had to pay Mike Tyson. Why is Jake Paul paying Mike Tyson? This fight has broken streaming visual records. 65 million, I think it said 65 million households. So that's not even people. Because all it takes is like 2 or 3 people in the same house. 65 million. It's the biggest, it's the most viewed thing since cable television started, which obviously in the UK doesn't really mean much. Like Sky TV, let's say. All for what? To watch a guy walk into the ring and go, oh, I'm going to get paid 10 times as much if I don't fight. And watch another guy not fight very well to have it go to a judge's decision, and the judge is like, oh, well, this guy won because the other guy didn't fight. What was the point? If it was one guy paying the other guy for a fight, why don't you just give him the money and skip the bit in the middle? We could have all got a couple of extra hours sleep. I don't get all of this stuff. I don't understand what we're trying to achieve. Mike Tyson now has that over him for the rest of the time because he put more money in the bank. And from my understanding, there was a point in time when Mike Tyson had a lot of money. There was a point in time when Mike Tyson was basically broke. And my understanding was that was a while ago. And since then, Mike Tyson got into selling weed. Legally, of course. And my understanding is that business has made a lot of money. Now then, I know for a fact, Ric Flair said that he has made more money selling weed legally than he ever did wrestling. So, Mike Tyson, and it'll always come up in the first few. Okay, I don't want... Yeah, so there's the thing there. Fair enough, I guess. Yeah, Mike Tyson's peak, he was worth $300 million. Then it's basically saying that he lost it all and then managed to build his net worth back up to roughly $10 million. So, I might have to take something back on this one, because what I might have to take back there is if Mike Tyson was paid $10 million for that fight, he's doubled his net worth, which, yeah, maybe you can see why you would do that. Now then, record payouts revealed for boxing blockbuster bout. I bet it isn't. Tyson earned an estimated $20 million, so it's not even doubling his net worth, it's tripling his net worth. So, yeah, no, I take back everything I've said, and I can fully see why you would do it. Especially from a legacy perspective. You know, if you're looking to the future, 58 years old, and you start thinking about what you're leaving behind for your kids, $30 million is a sure nice nest egg compared to 10. Because, you know, $10 million is nothing these days, is it? We've all got $10 million in the bank. So, here's the second instance where podcasts imitating life. I'm listening. No, I've got to get this the right way round. So, my eldest daughter is entering into a certain phase in her life, and I'm not going to lie, this is the phase I wasn't looking forward to. This is the phase that I'm not going to enjoy, I imagine, for any of my children. And she is the first to enter into this phase, and, you know, we're staring down the barrel of teenage years, and not really, because she hasn't even, you know, entered into teenage years. So we've still got time, but we're staring, you know, it's coming over the horizon. And, you know, it's like little things are starting to creep in. So there was a point of the weekend where I'm like talking to her, like, oh, what do you want to do about this? She was like, I don't know, whatever. I'm like, all right, whatever. And the response I got back was basically, just whatever, shut up. Those weren't her words, but that's my interpretation. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll shut up then, shall I? And I joked about it later and was like, oh, she basically told me to shut up. She was like, I wasn't. I was just saying it doesn't matter. I'm like, uh-huh. So, like I say, I've been seeing these things. There's a lot of mobile phone usage, a lot of, not drama as such, but this friend this and that friend that. And she's never really been that. like I've other children for all of that drama. Jesus freaking Norma. But she's building this group of friends, and with that comes ups and downs. Let's just say that. So I'm seeing all these things. Next thing, I'm listening to a podcast. I think it was even that day and into the next day. Talking about somebody saying that they were talking about raising 2 teenage daughters. And I was like, this will be interesting. And talking about what that's like. And then somebody else then asked a question about a certain thing and like teenage daughters and stuff. And one of the 2 people that were on the podcast were like, oh, well, something to bear in mind. Between the age of 13 and 17, if you test a girl between those ages, they test exactly the same as psychopaths and serial killers. And I was like, that makes a lot of sense. That really tracks. And just the listening to the ups and downs of dealing with absolutely everything that's to come, where I'm like, oh, you know, I've already been dealing with that aspect of, I don't think she really wants to spend as much time with me. I don't think she wants to talk to me as much. I listened to a podcast a few days back where somebody was saying that they had a 14-year-old daughter who basically would prefer it if they didn't exist and just hides in their bedroom. And I'm like, I'm just like, man. So it's been this really weird sort of like a thing that I'm going through at that point in time is then immediately addressed in like the podcast that I've been listening to. And it's really helpful to sort of see that, you know, it's not isolated. You're not dealing with these isolated things. Like everybody's dealing with things like that from in, you know, a certain walk of life. If you've got teenage girls, you're dealing with teenage girls sort of thing. So yeah, interesting that these things pop up at I would say at the point in time that I needed them to. I want to talk about something that happened to me today. And it's not something that happened to me today. It's a series of things that happened to me today. As we know, I have been trying very, 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 very hard to work on the way I am when I'm in the car. So I feel I'm doing quite well with it. I feel it's kind of a thing from the past now. I don't F and Jeff in the car. I don't jump under a bucket full. I don't criticise every single person's driving. I do it in my head. It's not like I've stopped. I just don't verbalise it. And then every now and then I'll be like, why is that person parked like that? In the middle of the road, sideways, you know, just as an example. And if I do it, sometimes I'll be on my own. So, you know, first sign of insanity. And if I catch myself doing it, I rein it in and sort of stop it. Doesn't make everything easier is part of the issue. And I absolutely, categorically, 100% despise Monday mornings. This is universal. I've talked at length about this. Every element, every aspect, every part of a Monday morning is designed to make me hate everything. So, never a good thing. This morning, I headed out the door and I was like, right, got two things to do. One, get my son to nursery. Two, go to work. Two of my least favourite things, not necessarily the going to work aspect, more the driving across town. In the space of 250 yards this morning, I had 3 incidents. So, incident number 1, I am pulling away from a curb, having dropped my son off. Dropped him off at nursery. I get in the car. I pull away from the curb. And as I do so, I realise that what I initially thought was a car hadn't realised I was pulling out, so it decided to go round me, was the case. What I very quickly realised was, no, that wasn't the case. They were just being a particular way, and they decided that they would do a particular manoeuvre because that was the best thing for them to do. Now, I'm on a 30-mile-an-hour road and I'm pulling out, and there's nothing. There's nothing coming, there's nothing behind, because by this point in time, the vehicle that would or should have been behind is attempting to get round me. So I'm accelerating from stood still to 30. And I'm accelerating, whilst being mildly aware that this situation is going on. So, by the time I hit 30 and this car hasn't passed me, obviously they need to speed up and go past. Internally, I'm like, what exactly is it that you are doing right now? What are we doing here? What is this? What is this serving? Because ultimately, you've gained nothing. You could have either waited for me to pull out or slowed down somewhat, knowing that I was pulling out to accelerate, and we'd have both been going at the same speed. But you've decided to perform A, illegal, B, ill-advised, C, you're speeding manoeuvre. For what purpose? Because you need to be one car further ahead. For what? This is the point where the bus came round the corner. And up till this point in time, the car that was performing these series of manoeuvres was on the other side of the road. So obviously we have a severe swerve in, and, you know, they nearly got pancaked by a bus. But, you know, they're out there feeling good about their start to the day. So on the same corner, I have now gone round the corner, and it's type of corner. It's a very weird sort of corner. I think it's designed to sort of relieve some of the issues that roads like that have, where one side of the road's curb is built out. So you have a situation where if you're coming from one direction, you have the right of way because there is no built out curb on your side. You have the right of way. And if something is coming the other way, they can either go straight through if nothing's coming, or they have to wait. Unless, of course, you're a white van. Because if you're a white van, you can ignore the fact that it's not your right of way. And you can instead just drive at speed, forcing the car who's got the right of way to have to stop to let you through, whilst the car then sits and stares directly at you, wondering exactly what it is that you're now doing, because we've had the car situation, now we've got the van situation. I go around a corner, I drive down, and there is a car waiting to reverse out of a driveway. They can't get out because there's a row of traffic. I drive up and pull to the back of the traffic. By this point, I'm like, what exactly is it that we're doing here, people? It's Monday morning, and, you know, the lunatics have taken over the asylum. I then become very much aware that the car that was due to reverse out has obviously decided to do what is my absolute favourite manoeuvre, which is known as reversing without looking. And I see this situation unfold, which is this car is about to drive into me. This is going to be fun because I can't go anywhere because there's a car in front of me. And by some kind of miracle I cannot actually explain, I believe that the laws of physics were bent in this moment in time. The car has managed to pass through my vehicle and pull out onto the road, and no damage occurred. And I was like, what the fuck just happened? Did that really happen? Was that a real thing? That car has managed to perform a maneuver that defies all physics, all logic. I physically cannot believe that this has just happened. Just wow. At this point in time, I am like, emotional is probably the best way to describe it. I am emotional. I am just like, the fuck are we doing here? Why is this the answer? I've been through this many times before, and this is only part of the story. Like a few other things recently, I don't understand. And I've been through it before, like, oh, well done, you cut somebody up, you sped round someone, you forced your way into a into a different lane, or any of the other things that happens every journey, every time I'm going anywhere. Congratulations, well done to you. You're the better person. Because you achieved that, you did that. You bought the giant Range Rover for that purpose alone, so that you can barge into any lane of traffic you want. Congratulations. You're a fucking hero. I am baffled. I am, like I say, emotional. It seems to be a thing that goes hand in hand these days with this whole situation, where people just, as a rule, just baffle me. I just don't understand what as a human race we're trying to achieve, because it's certainly not, togetherness. That's for sure. I get to work. I go into work. And a friend of mine comes to me in the kitchen. And he's brandishing this bag. And I'm like, oh, what's he got for his lunch kind of thing. But he's like pushing the bag towards me. And I'm like, what's going on here? He's like, oh, this is for you. And I was like, is this drugs? Because there was a part of me that was genuinely worried that it was actually drugs. And I was like, oh no, this person has brought drugs into the office and we're both going to get fired. I opened the bag and inside the bag was another bag. And I'm like, I mean, if that's not a clear sign that this is a bag of drugs. So I start rooting like down and down and down in this bag and then rooting round in the other bag. And I'm like, I'm looking and he's talking to me and he's like, oh, there's only 2 or 3 in there and I could only get this. And while he's talking, I'm desperately trying to work out if I'm holding a bag of drugs. And I'm like, hang on a minute. I recognize this. And it ain't drugs. But I recognise this because of 2 things. 1, it's something from my past. And 2, it's just dawned on me that me and this person have had a conversation about this item before. And it was food. And it was, Staffordshire oatcakes. And if you don't know what oatcakes are, look them up and know they're not the little biscuit things. Oatcakes are these big, round things. You can buy them in Sainsbury's if you're lucky. If you get them and get Sainsbury's in a good mood, you can get them from Sainsbury's. And I was like, holy shit balls. It's not a bag of drugs. It's better than drugs. I was like, what the fuck is this? It's like, I brought these in for you because I know you like them. And I had some and there was a couple left over and I brought them for you. And honestly, I'm getting emotional right now. Honestly, I nearly cried. Do you ever have one of those things where you're at a point where you just absolute despair, absolute lowest of the absolute low as far as your belief in the human race is concerned? I keep saying it's an actual battle to get from my house to the office on a Monday morning, and it makes me hate everything. And at the point that I'm hating absolutely everything, wondering why exactly I'm there, wondering what the reason for these things is, I'd already fired off the phrase, the person who decided we need to dedicate the most useful hours of our day to the sort of servitude that we do needs shooting. Somebody handed me like a lifeline. And I was honest, I had I'm not too much of a man to admit, I had to turn away from this person because I genuinely thought, oh shit, this is the point where I start crying in the middle of the office because somebody handed me a bag with a couple of oatcakes in. But at that moment in time, it restored everything. It was that, oh no, there really are good people in the world. Genuinely good people. A person who was like, this is something nice I can do for another person. And I'm going to do it. And that other person was me. And I'm like, and then you're immediately in that moment where you know words cannot express enough how you feel, because that person has restored your faith in humanity. That's worth its weight in gold. And I'm like, mate, I'm genuinely thrilled about this. This is awesome. Then we got into a conversation about like different food combinations to put with the oatcakes and stuff. And I went back to my desk and I put them in my bag. And then this was how it went. I was like, I checked on my phone, and the same person had sent me a message earlier in the morning, and I responded to that. Even though I just had a conversation, I responded to them, and I was like, responded to the message they sent, and then I put, In fact, I'll read it. It's going to be quicker and easier. I said all the stuff that are in response to that message, and then I put cheers for the oatcakes. It's proper made my day. And admittedly, it was first thing in the morning, but it did make my day, and it made like the rest of my day as well. So yeah, maybe not everything's as bad. I got a couple of bits and pieces. I have watched 2 films this week, neither of which I'm going to talk about because I've seen them before and talked about them before. Me and Leon watched Wolverine and Deadpool, and me and my eldest watched the last Mission Impossible film. All I'll say is this. Watching Wolverine and Deadpool this time, I felt a little less about it than I did seeing it at the cinema. I think some of the stuff that had been masked that I spoke about at the time when I saw it at the cinema came through a bit more watching it this time. Leon wasn't overly impressed with it. On the flip side, watching the Mission Impossible film, Dead Reckoning, less of the stuff that was glaringly not great stood out this time. My eldest enjoyed it. I was just like, this film is far too long, and every single set piece in it is far too long. It's 3 times longer than it needs to be, and I don't really feel it achieves anything. So anyway, I have finished Mr. In-Between. All I'll say is this. The way the last episode was going, I wasn't a fan. You've always got that element of it's never going to end the way you want it to, never going to end the way you want it to, and then everybody throws out The Sopranos. Never going to end the way you want it to. I had 2 things in my head. One, I was like, the main character's going to have to die. 2, it has to happen in a certain way. So, it was all going in that direction, basically. Ray decided to leave the life abruptly, some would say, and go off and live in a field. However, there's a point where he gets pulled back into the life one last time, just before finally getting out, and then that's the point in time where somebody decides it's time to tie up loose ends. However, it all works out okay, and off he goes to live in a field. And that was kind of that, until it wasn't. And I'm like, oh no, I don't want it to end this way. Because I knew it was going to end this way, but I don't want it to. And it was going and going and going and going and going. And I'm like, they're kind of dragging this one out. This feels weird for an ending. So right at the very end, they're like, right. They sort of announce that they're going to bump off the main character. And I'm like, for fuck's sake. All I will say is this. It had the most perfect ending you could have actually ever hoped for. I laughed and rejoiced all at the same time at the end of that episode. Perfection. I was like, that's phenomenal. It was a great series. It was so well done. It was that very sort of that real sweet spot of the first 2 series were good. The 3rd series, as I've seen in interviews, was very much for the fans. You might say for better or worse. You might not. And it ended perfectly. It was an absolute corker of a series. I'd highly recommend it to anyone. Having finished that, I've now moved more solidly into watching series 2 of The Old Man. I've watched episodes 2, 3, and this evening I watched episode 4. By episode 3, I was starting to think, maybe I can just walk away from this. This series is not offering me what I want. Maybe I can say this just isn't for me and walk away. And then right at the end of the third episode, they threw out a bit of a ooh moment, and I went, okay, I'll give you another episode. Lucky for me, I did, because whereas all the stuff that was happening, episode 1, 2, and 3, all the stuff where I was like, this is not what I signed on for, has kind of been softened by the fact that 2/3 of the main characters have decided to leave, quote unquote, Afghanistan and go back to America. And it's all changed, and it's got real dramatic, real fast. Don't want to be that guy, but it absolutely needed it. I imagine there was possibly some sort of like test audience involvement, maybe test viewings, maybe, where people are like, this just isn't working. We need to get back to the core of the show, because that was gone. So I'm glad that it's gone the way it has. So I think I'm safe to say I'll probably stick with it from now till the end. I think I've only got 3 or 4 episodes at this point, so might as well see if it sticks the landing. Computer game wise, flat screen, nothing to write home about. I missed an opportunity to get a game cheap, which I felt was what I kind of needed. I feel like I need not excuse, not necessarily reason. I think I just need something to draw me back to the PS5. Obviously, I've had these sort of points in time where I've been really playing the PS5, and then it's too easy to not, because I dedicate quite a lot of my time to VR, and I've got the Steam Deck right there, that I tend to sort of just default to those. So for a while now, I've been feeling like I need a PlayStation game. If I had some money, if I had unlimited money, I would buy probably Space Marine 2 if I had real money. But instead, there was this game. I could have got it for like £12, but I let the sale lapse. And it's only gone back up to like 16, but £16 is a lot of money when you possibly have to pay out a load of money for cars and things. So we'll see on that one. I have a horrible feeling that I can't say it, so I don't want to jinx anything. So flat game wise, not a lot to talk about. I have been playing stuff, but nothing new or So let's talk some VR. Metro Awakening. First things first, I finished it. But that is not the first thing on my list. So let's go back a bit. And I will talk you through the things I've written down. Number 1, too scary. Metro VR is very much a horror game. Now, I feel that VR and horror and me are kind of okay. I've dealt with like not genuine horror, but stuff that could be considered to be scary, and been fine with it. It's not caused me any issues. Whereas what I would say as far as Metro is concerned, it's very much a horror game in a lot of elements. There were points where I felt that it was a little too scary. Again, not too much of a man to admit that. Next thing I've written down is late shotgun. So, something that absolutely drives me up the wall about computer games is game developers will put an absolute corker of a weapon into their game 2/3 of the way through it. If you've got a fantastic weapon that looks great, operates great, just an absolute perler, why do you want people to not have access to it? Surely you want them to use it and enjoy it. And I get the progression stuff. Here's a handgun to start with. Here's a machine gun. Here's a hand grenade, etc. But the shotgun is hands down the best weapon in Metro. And you don't get it until, like say, 2/3 of the way into the game. Something that really pissed me off about Metro was they reused the same area multiple times. That is lazy game design. It's not clever. It's lazy. Work smart, not hard. Absolutely. But it's bad game design, bad development. Also, very much like the Dead Space remake, just making it dark doesn't make it good. That's a cheap trick, and it's used to hide bad looking games. So there. I did finish it. There was a real sort of, it really amped up at the back end with the sort of stuff you want. Like, it put you in a room and it's like, oh, there's loads of monsters that are going to come in waves in this room. But in the build up to this, we gave you lots of ammo and you've got a load of guns. Perfect. Then it puts you into a section where it's like, hey, do you remember like there was a stealth element to the game? It's not really come up all that much. Why don't you really get your teeth into the stealth element? You know, use your quiet weapons and really see about getting stuck into that side of things. That section was actually really good. I really enjoyed, you know, if done right, I really enjoy stealth. So it really worked for me. I really enjoyed it. However, it then switched to everybody's favourite. Oh, you don't have any weapons. And now you're just walking through the last bit of the game. Yeah, not super enamoured. A little bit too much talking and not enough action in certain parts of the game. It's a solid 7 out of 10 game. Unfortunately, it also drops to 6 out of 10 at times and could have easily been 8 out of 10 if they'd have done more of the stuff that would have made it an 8 out of 10. I feel like there was a lot of easy, quick wins they could have done, and they just didn't. That, to me, is a sign of a game that's been rushed at points. Yeah, quite a lot of negatives. Like, there's the question of, will you play it again? Will you play it again? Will you play it again? Yes, but not anytime soon. It's that kind of thing. Honestly, gun to my head, I would have to say I was disappointed. I was really looking forward to it. I'd saved the money up. I'd built the money up to get like vouchers. I put the vouchers on the account so I couldn't spend that money elsewhere. I pre-ordered it. Still need to go back and double check the pre-order bonuses that I don't remember getting. All of that to then end up disappointed. It's not ideal. Something I wasn't disappointed about was the fact that finally we got another update to Into the Radius 2. It was another one of those where you had to switch over to beta to get the update and use the update. But all sorts of new things. New guns, the kind of guns that I want to get. The one gun I felt was missing from the game. I think it's like an M4 or something. It's now in the game and it's amazing. It's got all different attachments, silencer, etc., etc. All of this, a new sight for weapons like that. Perfect, absolute perfect combination. There's another couple of weapons, not necessarily too much to write home about. AK-47 type stuff that just does not interest me at all. Helmets are now in the game, but unfortunately, so is weapon degradation, and you have to clean and maintain your weapons, which honestly I could hands down do without. It's an element I really don't enjoy. Into the Radius 1 had an option where you could just pay to have your weapons fixed rather than having to like clean and do all of that. And I must have spent 50,000, whatever the denomination is, dollars or whatever, on just having weapons fixed because I could not be bothered with it. They've tooled some elements and stuff. The turn speeds got weird. Your height is now weird. They have added new enemies, and the enemy is quite scary because it just randomly popped up while I was doing something and I'd never seen it before, and it's a little bit creepy. Played it, got some new bits and bobs, going along nicely, and then I was like, right, it's time to go to the forest. Apparently not, because no matter what I do, try, stand on my head, spin around 3 times, or any of those sorts of things, I cannot get the game to load the forest. I've tried shutting down certain things on my computer to see if it's like a bandwidth thing, or any of the possible things I can think of, and I cannot get it to load the forest. I don't know why or what, and I'm hoping it gets addressed in some sort of update. But at the moment, can't go to the forest, can only go to Peninsula. It's a real shame because I really wanted to put the new stuff through its paces and don't feel like that's an option. I'm almost tempted to wait for an update or to wait for it to move out of beta and into actual update, just so I can try and play it without this problem. But we will see. I have got 2 other VR games on the standalone Quest to look at again, but that will have to wait for another episode. So there we go. That is this episode, and I will catch you next time. So there you go, what do you think of that? Another one done, another one gone. Thank you for watching, thank you for listening, thank you for being here. Before you go, please do consider like, share, subscribe and comment. Leave a review where you can leave a review, and check out the website, thecookiecast.com. There we've got social media links and an email button. That way you can get in touch with us. That is it for this one. Until next time, I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then.
Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening to Cookie Cast.